Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member Sablan, and thank you, the members, for giving me the unanimous consent to participate. As you all know, gentlemen, I represent Hawaii, so we are, of course, very much interested in the COFA impacts as well. And let me begin with you, Director Pula. One of the questions that has always been the forefront for those, especially Hawaii, Guam, and CNMI, has been that we bear the burden, or we feel that the states shoulder a lot. When I say the burden, I'm saying the cost, the unreimbursed cost of the federal government when it comes to impacts of the various, whether it's the Marshallese, people of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, or the Federated States of Micronesia. The compacts have been amended or extended to the year 2023 as to the Federated States and as to the Republic of the Marshall Islands. What was, of course, lacking here is Palau, the third, which hasn't been extended. Is there any sense as to whether the compact as it relates to Palau will be extended?
Thank you, Congresswoman. The Palau Compact, there are certain provisions that continue that, beyond 2023. The part that the United States is trying to assist is the financial package for Palau that the administration has provided their proposal of funding to Congress. And of course, the issue has been on offsets. And so we've been working with the Senate Committee, of course, Energy, in providing offsets to both the administrations from the Department of Interior or some Department of State. But that issue has not yet been settled, and we hope it will be settled soon with the budget.
And as you are probably very well aware, and I know Mr. Goodnick is, the GAO did a study about maybe 2 years ago as the actual impacts of the compact. And I think the figure that the GAO came up with was about 180 some odd million a year versus the 30 million which the affected areas are, quote, sharing in terms of reimbursement. Now, what is it that the Interior is going to do or feel it should do as to the clear disparity between what GAO has assessed as the cost and what the compacts provide for?
Well, again, it really boils down, Congresswoman, to resources. The reports come to the Department of Interior, and we forward the reports to the President into Congress. Now, at this stage of budgetary constraints, I don't think I would speak for the Department of Interior to increase the budget, as we're struggling to deal with both the office and the department itself with the continuing resolutions that we deal with. I agree regarding the disparity in costs. I guess it's one of those questions where if Congress do provide the funding to increase the 30 million, because it's been 10 years, it's only 30 million to be divided, then we would welcome that for the affected jurisdictions.
Do you take any issue with or exception to GAO's calculations as to what the true impacts have been that has been disproportionately borne by Hawaii, Guam, and CNMI?
I'm sorry, madam, I don't understand.
Do you dispute the figures that GAO has come up with as to what they feel are the true impacts versus the $30 million?
Well, I'll have to say we haven't done any analysis into that. We're just trying to struggle how to provide more funding to the affected jurisdictions because of the situation.
But how do you know how much to provide to the affected jurisdictions if you don't know what the amount is?
As I mentioned, that is based on the reports that the jurisdiction provide to us. And to this day, we haven't had any agreement as to, what types of determination of the costs. All we do is execute the law, which says $30 million to the affected jurisdiction. We have the Census Bureau does, the enumeration, and so they provide the numbers, and we divide the percentage according to that. And beyond that, I don't think the Department of Interior has the expertise to determine. We can definitely try to work with the affected jurisdictions to figure out a way, including GAO, in terms of what could be done. But at this point, we haven't reached any consensus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ambassador Paul and Ambassador Casey, I want to be very clear that the concern that I raised to Director Pula is a function of not what the people from the Marshall Islands or the people from the Federated States may be doing when they come to Hawaii. That's not the issue. The issue is that because of the fact that the states are not being compensated for the impacts that they feel that they're carrying, that what I am most concerned about is that your people are then going to become subjected to census that they're taking more than they should from our states, and that's a concern, because it's really the federal government's inability to compensate the states that's the problem, because of the fact that the compact provides them with these respective rights. So I want to be very clear about that, and that is why we have the level of frustration, because we do not want to see our peoples, whether they're coming in and adopting Hawaii or adopting Guam. That's not the issue. The issue is the inability and because all the states are struggling to have their resources being viewed as being pulled away from others. That's what the challenge is for us, because we don't see the federal government paying for its fair share of and expecting the states to carry that burden for them. Now, Mr. Gutnick, one of the questions I have is about a chart in the GAO reports on page 8. It's about the FSM grant assistance falling to 2023, beginning at 76.2 million in 2004 to 62.6 and 16.0 in terms of trust fund contributions, going up to 29.6. Similarly, you have a graph like that for the Marshall Islands. Now, I assume that at some point these two lines are supposed to cross, or they're supposed to equal the same amount. Am I correct?
Congresswoman, the graph you're referring to takes the funding out to 2023.
Right.
In 2023, the funding for both the trust funds and the Section 211 compact grants ends as scheduled. At that point in time, the trust funds are intended to take over, originally envisioned to provide a source of revenue, not necessarily to completely fulfill the gap left by compact grant assistance, and certainly not inflation adjusted over time. It's probably important for this discussion not to paint both countries with the same brush as well, so that the Marshall Islands Trust Fund is actually in a bit better circumstances. It has had contributions from Taiwan, $5 million each year, going back to the beginning of the amended compact period. And as such, the projections are, the best projections I've seen are that with an slightly over 8% rate of return, the trust fund in the Marshall Islands will continue to provide the level of assistance provided in 2023 for compact assistance. Now, inflation adjusted in 2023 and 2083, that's going to be worth a lot less. But that said, 8.1% is the magic number for Marshall Islands. In Micronesia, it's over 12%. They have not had other nations contributing, and by virtue of the return that these trust funds have had since their inception, they have a steeper curve they've got to climb.
So it is true then what was anticipated was the trust funds would take over and meet whatever the grants were providing, or whatever they needed in terms of subsistence for that period of
The
time.
goal was to
Goal.
replace the numeric value of the Section 211, the compact grant assistance, in 2023. And the desire was to do that without inflation adjustment, but in perpetuity. And
Do you have any idea as to why, and I could ask the ambassadors, but I'll ask you first, as to why we do have contributions being made by Taiwan from Marshall Islands, but we don't have any other contributions being made for FSMI?
well, I can't speak for both nations, but I would expect that both nations have sought contributions from other nations. The Marshall Islands has a close relationship with the Taiwanese. As Ambassador Paul suggested, there has been Taiwanese foreign investment in Madro with a tuna loining factory there that has brought jobs. So the Taiwanese are actively engaged in the Marshall Islands. Other nations have different relations with other Micronesian states.
So it goes back to what my colleague from Guam was talking about, the economic growth in the respective areas. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.